All right, what is up, everybody? Oh my gosh, it's Thursday and a Living Force show, you don't say. Yes, everyone, we're a little late this week, but we're so excited to be here. We're going to finish up Rising Storm. We're all going to cry together. We're going to make it through. I'm going to give a spoiler warning now. I'll give more during the episode, but we can't do that until Wes punches it. Here we go. What is up, everyone? Welcome into a Thursday edition of the Living Force. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me on this Youtini Network podcast all about the Rising Storm is the full crew. First off, we have the man himself, the trailer builder, the video deleter, Dr. Corey Helton.
Hello. I thought you were going to call me trailer trash, if I'm being honest. 100% thought that was where that was going.
When it's finished, you know it's coming.
Yeah, you know, it's just, how have we made it 123 episodes without ever moving an episode?
It's very weird. It's the first time we've ever not had a Monday since we started going live. And guys, I felt a little empty.
I did. I mean,
But
I
now
feel
I
pretty
feel
dead
fuller.
inside all the time. So, you know.
Yeah, but no one's more dead inside than Dr. Charles Hankel. Hey, dude.
That is 100% true. The man walked in here today, but I want to say a heartfelt thank you to you guys for moving this show, because I think you know how important these roundtables are to me. And thank you to everybody who's being flexible and tuning in tonight on a Thursday. And for everyone who's listening later, I'm sorry we were not here on Monday. I'm sure people logged on and they were just like, what is this? But we're here tonight. We're going to make it up for you, I promise.
Yeah, and I love that you said, like, thank you for being patient, because I've heard that's the good mental health thing. Not sorry I was late, but, like, thank you for waiting. It's like a positive experience, right? And nothing is a more positive experience than every one of you getting to witness the glory that is Mr. Wes Jenkins. Hey, man.
Hello, everyone. Eric, I have to get that book of transitions and segues that you have. It's coming through every week, and I really appreciate it, especially with the punch-it lines. You're doing a hell of a job with the punch-in lines, and we're all in tears when the opening video's going through while you're watching. We're just like hands in our faces and just crying out loud. It's great.
Oh, well, thank you, man. A little incentive for you audio listeners that there's a little preamble every week that gets real weird, but we are here. A lovely chat already here. Hi to all of you. Happy Thursday. As I said, we are here to talk all about Cavan Scott's The Rising Storm for part 2 of our roundtable. There will be spoilers, there will be laughter, there will be tears, and there will be at least one officially licensed High Republic fair shirt that I am wearing. Hashtag not a sponsor. Hashtag it's on shop Disney Sport Book merchandise. But because Charles likes to get into these as quickly as possible, we're going to do a few brief housekeeping things. Number one, a reminder that this Monday, there will be another Living Force show. That's right. Within like 5 days, you're getting 2 shows. We are doing an all questions episode. So if you haven't yet, please jump into our Discord channel at Living Force. DM us on Twitter at our Living Force pod handle or any of our personal handles. Send us an email, whatever you got to do to get in contact with us. Send us your questions. We want to have a fun episode answering anything about Star Wars, anything about the books. Whatever you want to hear us ramble about, we are in your hands on Monday, so get those in. Wes, we have another thing ending on Monday. Tell the audience what they need to do to win a prize again.
Okay, so in light, that's great. In light of The Rising Storm, we are giving away the out-of-print version of Cavan Scott's The Rising Storm. So it comes with the variant cover and a tote bag that we found out has a inside pocket that's really nice. From
So
one of
fancy.
from Jacob on the team. So in order to win this book, you have to follow us on 3 different social media platforms. So follow us on Twitter, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram. And last but not least, leave a comment in either the Roundtable Part 1 or Part 2 on YouTube. And we will randomly draw somebody next Monday. So whatever day that is, you have 4 days to follow us on those 3 different social media platforms: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and then leave a comment. And so we'll do the wheel of death and see whoever wins.
God,
Wheel of
okay.
Death, yes.
We'll see who wins the book, and we'll ship it out to you. So I hope we get a lot of entries, and then we'll do it live on air, so everybody sees who
Do it
wins.
live.
We'll do it live. And I want to say a shout out to some folks on our first Roundtable episode. I'm already seeing comments like, I already own this version, I own this book, but I like this Roundtable and I want to comment to help out the analytics, because, yo, that's absolutely why we do this. We're not even going to pretend. It helps our YouTube analytics to get comments. It helps our
for
follows.
money.
Yeah, but we appreciate it. And also, on that note, I've never done this before. I don't want to do it a lot. If you haven't subscribed to this channel we're on, go ahead and throw us a subscribe. And if you're watching, go ahead and like this video if you want.
Smash that like and subscribe button. Would you
All
like
right,
that?
I'm done. I hate it. Moving on. I hate it. But you know what I don't hate, and what is also about money that Corey loves, is our Patreon community. And we got a few new patrons this week. We want to shout out. We have Sean Patrick Murphy, Gavin McFadden, and Nico Kaboris that became monthly patrons of The Living Force and Youtini. Thank you. I know we kind of just say thank you every week for this, but it really is a very heartfelt thank you. This week, we even had some comments in our bonus shows that you get from subscribing to the Patreon channel that were about the Ghost Crew episode that Charlie and I dropped this week. And that was really nice to read, because that's one of the shows that we like putting up behind that paywall for our subscribers. And it's cool to know that you're loving it. So again, if you want to join that community and see everything we're doing, including our upcoming Friday, August 20th, Patreon event, where the 4 of us will be doing a drunk trivia night moderated by our very own Timothy Guthrie. You have till then to join our Patreon community.
Drank.
We do, however, yes, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be sloppy. There'll be pool hats, at least one.
Oh, I need to buy some hats.
Hell yeah. But we do have a very, very special to me patron of the week this week. Charles, who are we talking about?
So this week we are talking about Mr. Ian Page, and Ian says, "Hello there. My name is Ian Page, aka Wookiee Hugger on the Discord channel. I'm from the Midwest, but currently based in Los Angeles. Star Wars has been huge for me ever since my 7th birthday, when my dad gifted me all his old Kenner toys, including an original Millennium Falcon and my eventual favorite character, Chewbacca. My fandom focus changes all the time. Sometimes it's the movies, sometimes it's the books, sometimes the toys, and sometimes, actually always, it's the memes. But most importantly, it's the fandom friendships. Spoiler alert, Eric has been my Star Wars ride or die friend since college, and I have to admit to pretty constantly enabling and encouraging his Funko and lightsaber addictions.
Yup.
Don't we all? My favorite Star Wars story is Bloodline, because no one writes Leia better than Claudia Gray, even the creator. I also got deep into Clone Wars recently and think about it constantly. I've been on the Youtini train since the mail-in days, and even still have all my posters proudly hanging up amidst my official posters, so I'm excited to finally be on the Patreon and Discord. My questions for the host: what is your biggest zero judgment guilty pleasure in the fandom? I, for one, have been hosting yearly holiday special screenings for the last 6 years, and Life Day just isn't the same without it. I also love collecting figures for deep, deep cut characters that make you go, what? They made a toy for Elon Slumbagano. I think it's
Slumbagano?
Slumbagano, yeah.
Isn't it Sleaze? I thought it was Sleazebagano. Who knows?
But exactly.
Why? All right. Anyways, thanks for the great show and lovely community you fostered. May the force be with you all. So thank you, Ian. And what a fantastic picture that fits your Discord name.
It's so great. Yeah. So Ian's been my best friend since college. It's awesome to have him in Discord. I am the person that gets him those weird figures every Christmas. That's our tradition for the last decade, is finding which weird, honestly, prequels action figures to buy him.
Ian's been around for a really long time. I talked to him a long time ago on the phone. I called him out of blue because I had his number, because
we used to do that.
It was part of when you signed up for a subscription box, it was like one of the things you collected was the phone number. And I called him and I was like, "Hey, Ian, it's Corey from Youtini." And he's like, "What?"
I guarantee you how it started. Yeah.
That's pretty much how it went. shipping destroyed his graphic novel, and Ian told us how terrible it was, and we basically moved to boxes after that. So
that was a single phone call, went from sleeves to boxes.
That's
and
right.
the Youtini duct tape. We had officially a Youtini branded duct tape.
dude, I still got a roll of that. I found it when I was so a bunch of I'm sort of like getting rid of some of my Star Wars books. I know that sounds like blasphemy, but some of my older books that I know I'm not going to read again. I've been like I have them all listed on like Facebook Marketplace and stuff, and I offered to give them to the team or to sell them to the team because I like money. And a whole bunch of team members bought some of my Star Wars books, and nobody has said anything yet. But I did like throw in a whole bunch of extra Youtini stuff into those packages when I mailed them. So
that's
lots
awesome.
of stuff from the old days.
That's awesome, and it's rude because nobody wants your trash. You're putting in there.
Well, speaking of trash, segue. So Ian's question: what is our guilty pleasure? I do know that Ian hosts these holiday special parties every year. I have not been to one since he's been in Los Angeles, but because I refuse to watch it. But guys, do we have a guilty pleasure in the Star Wars world?
I love Attack of the Clones, man. I've always loved Attack of the Clones. That is like I know it's the worst film. Everybody knows it's the worst film, but I will still put it higher than Phantom Menace on my rank list because I love it. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
I think mine is any behind the scenes stuff. The documentaries, the deleted scenes. Like, I mean, now not so much, but when I first got the Blu-rays, I felt like I spent more time on all that stuff than actually watching the movies. Like, I don't know. I really love this. And even with the sequels, all the documentaries that they did for those, the like hour-long ones, I mean, incredible. I'll watch that stuff all the time.
Totally. Wes, what about you?
I mean, I don't know that I have one. I know that I buy a bunch of books that I'm not going to read. Maybe that's my guilty pleasure.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm guilty about finances. Yeah, but I think that's an interesting thing about Youtini, right? Is that we have kind of over the last 3 years for ourselves kind of destroyed the idea of a guilty pleasure. It's all just like what you enjoy, which I think is cool. And I think that there are some things. So if something was to be considered guilty outside, I think for me lately, it's been like more of a surprising pleasure has been like just how much I devour anything involving the Handmaidens for me. Like ever since Queen Shadow came on, anything Padme, anything Sabe, like, because again, as much it's thought of as like the prequels, especially that's like Naboo, Attack of the Clones stuff that a lot of people still in the mainstream don't love. I'm all about it. I love it a lot. And I'm so glad that like we've been able to take Youtini to make it a thing that can allow all these things to just be.
It's funny.
Be happy without judgment.
That the man sitting in a room surrounded by 472 Funkos did not answer the Funkos.
Right?
Oh, no, I already mentioned my finances being the biggest guilt of mine, but you know what? Who's gonna buy a house in our generation anyway? Moving on.
I did ask Eric a couple weeks ago how much money he thinks he spends a month on Funkos, and he told me like $100. And I guarantee you
Star
that
Wars.
is not. Oh yeah, that's what I meant. On Star Wars, and I guarantee you it is way more than that.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, since the last show, I bought the Darksaber. Guys, I didn't tell the audience. I got the Darksaber since our last show.
Yeah.
So yeah, deeper and deeper the credit card goes. But where the Amazon points stop, nobody knows. All right, let's hit that Star Wars Weekly Roundup drop and do over to the quick one. Thanks, Ian. I love you, buddy.
It's the Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
All right, everyone, a few quick things of Star Wars news. Number one is a heartfelt congratulations to the one, the only Justina Ireland, who's out of the shadows, debuted at number 2 on the New York Times Young Adult Reader bestseller list, which, yes, if you're keeping track at home, means that every single High Republic novel so far has hit the New York Times bestseller list. Further confirming that Star Wars publishing is dead. So, congratulations to Justina, though. Number 2 is freaking awesome. Like, especially because this book came out so quickly after Rising Storm, y'all. I was kind of afraid that the hype of Rising Storm would maybe slow the sales a bit, but people showed up for Out of the Shadows. I was very happy.
High Republic, man. It's like, it's all about it right now. Everybody's really into it. I don't know that I've really seen a lot of negative commentary about the High Republic stuff.
Speaking of my finances, these are two of the... I will not read these. I have already read the book. I read it a month ago for the review. And then I bought these covers that are the same pages.
I know.
But it was great. So awesome covers. Congratulations, Justina. Out of the Shadows. We got probably a little over a month to that next roundtable. Some people are already finishing it though in our Discord, and the conversations are awesome. Congratulations. I hope that stays on the list for another month. Next thing we got is a little bit of news today that we had talked about on our Bounty Hunt show recently that we kind of thought was coming, we assumed, but we got confirmation, y'all. Bad Batch is not a limited series. We are getting season 2 in 2022. Oh wait, that's next year. What'd y'all think about this? Like, not a huge surprise, right?
I mean, not necessarily a huge surprise, but still also a surprise, I would say. Like, I mean,
but a welcome one is what you're saying. A surprise to be sure.
Yeah. A surprise to be sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a surprise at all. I think that once we do Bounty Hunt, we're always talk about, hey, I mean, there's so much they have to unpack, and they're not gonna be able to do it in 2 episodes, so we have to have a second season.
And they're like, you're right, Wes. We're gonna keep going.
Yeah. I think I was surprised by the timing of the announcement, though. Like, we're so close to the finale. True. I was expecting, if anything, at the end of the finale, it would say, like, you know, the Bad Batch will return, similar to how they did.
I was expecting something like that too.
Yeah.
Maybe it's nice. Maybe it's because they want people to go into the finale without wondering, like, how are they going to tie up every loose end? They're like, we'll take the pressure off. There will be a second season. Now you can just enjoy, which they also confirmed. That was like the second piece of news, that it will be a 2-part finale in typical Star Wars animation fashion. So we got part 1, part 2, dropping at 3 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. So I know some people stay up late. I know some people over in the UK get to watch at a much more normal hour. I myself wake up like a little early before work. So very excited that we're getting more Bad Batch. If you've missed any of our Bounty Hunt shows, they're on this channel. They're on our Patreon feed, and they're on our regular feed where we just talk about the Bad Batch. We've been loving it. We're very happy. And finally, one more piece of news that was written on our site by our very own Meg Dowell, who has returned from sabbatical and has already written like 3 or 4 news articles. But Meg, welcome back. We love you very much. We're so happy you had a good break. But she did write about another Star Wars project coming out on October 1st, Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales, because I guess we're doing Lego holiday specials. That's the future. Sure.
Yes.
Right?
I welcome
you.
Yes.
Can't get mad at Legos, right? So
why not?
Just like everybody got so atrociously mad at the holiday special from years and years and years after it even came out, you can't get mad at Legos though. So
no,
that's right.
It's so fun.
I really enjoyed that stupid little Lego one last year that came out. It was so fun. Yeah. The holiday special was so fun. It was such a fun, like, it made fun of the holiday special, but also like kind of made fun of, you know, the idea of canon a little bit, which was kind of fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was a goofy little episode.
And did you guys see that one of the castings that was revealed, I believe, was that Ren, the character Ren, which I think is the Ren from Kylo Ren, is going to be voiced by Christian Slater?
Wow.
Did you see this?
No, I didn't see that.
I didn't. Is he looking for work? What's going on?
Looks the 3 of you just gave are exactly what I wanted when I revealed that. So like, all right. But October 1st, that'll be happening. Get us in the spooky season, so that'll be fun. But of course, there's plenty of Star Wars before that. A reminder of the things that are coming up very soon. You can check out our release calendar on youtini.com for all of these. But if you want to get your pre-orders in, next Wednesday, August 11th, The Monster of Temple Peak, issue number 1 of the graphic novel Split Apart, I guess, of the High Republic story by Cavan Scott, starring Ty Yorick, starts next Wednesday. Then Tempest Runner, the audio drama, also written by Cavan Scott, comes out August 31st with The Tale of Lorna D, which we've got a cast reveal about, I think earlier last week. A lot of great voices coming in. And, wow, this was not intentional, also by Cavan Scott and George Mann, the Life Day Treasury collection comes out on September 7th. So, as I say this, Cavan, go to bed. I love you, man. That's all. What a year for Cavan Scott. But check out our new releases pages for, I guess, everything Cavan Scott you want in your life, and of course, everything else. But speaking of Cavan, we are now going to take a quick break and then jump right back into our spoiler-filled coverage of Cavan Scott's opus, The Rising Storm. We'll be right back. All right. Hey, everyone. Before I showed it over to Charles, a couple things in the chat they did remind us of. The Edge of Balance manga also comes out September 7th. I usually only put 3, so I missed that one. But that is coming out September 7th. The first canon Star Wars manga that is telling a new story, and the Lost Stars manga did come out, so very excited for that. And a preemptive happy birthday to Harish, who says Mantra of Temple Peak comes out on their birthday.
Nice.
So
Nice.
that'll be a great way to celebrate it with some awesome art and some monster hunting fighting. All right, Charles, let's do it, man. We've been waiting. Thursday night show. Questions. Go.
Here we go.
Yeah.
All right, so part 2
Wait, other
of
way.
the Rising
Yeah.
Storm Roundtable. Last time we got through the characters, which is exactly what we wanted to do. Tonight we're going to focus on the overarching questions, and then as always, we're going to take some time for some Easter eggs at the end. Boyos, for the first question, a little softball for you. How did the Rising Storm compare to Light of the Jedi for you?
Good question.
Yes, a softball. Okay, we're screwed.
I'm a bit of a sucker for origin stories, so I don't know that anything is going to be able to one up the first one. You know, like I mean, I really enjoy and not much really happens in episode 4, which is kind of funny. Like it is like aged
realistically
really poorly. Honestly, it really has in a lot of ways, and but nothing really happens. But I love that film, and if I pick one at random, even though it's not my favorite film, I am very likely to pick that one really more than any other one. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be hard for anything to one up that. I think
That's fair.
Yeah, you're right. So Light of the Jedi gave us the setup, and it's kind of tough to go outside of Light of the Jedi or being better than Light of the Jedi, because what I didn't expect was the great disaster to hit us so quickly, right? So, and especially with those first 8 chapters that we got before the book even came out. So, but one thing I do really like that it kind of keeps them close is, I mean, did the villains win in the Rising Storm? Is that what we're working with? Because
Right.
it makes you seem like they won, and then going into the third one, like just the title of the book, The Fallen Star, it makes me think, I mean, we're not really getting out of it. So
No.
that's true.
but I love a book where the villain turns into a protagonist in some sort of way. But I mean, Light of the Jedi was so good. It was so good. So
Yeah.
I mean, we saw some things that the Jedi have never done before, even in Legends. So it's kind of hard to beat.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind generally, because I really like what Harish, Endar, and Stephanie are saying in the chat right now. Harish put it really nicely. Light of the Jedi and Rising Storm are like two sides of the coin that one doesn't really work without the other. And I really like that idea that no other book could have followed Light of the Jedi except Rising Storm. You know, I think that's what we had to have, and that's why they work so well as a pairing. And like you said, Wes, I think Fallen Star is really just gonna smash it home to end out the phase. And I think, Corey, you're right. When I was reading Light of the Jedi, every chapter was like, they're doing this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, they're doing this. And then because it was the first time, and I gave that, and as you did as well, we gave that book a perfect 10. And that, despite what some people may say, is very hard to get from us, I think.
Right.
And I gave Rising Storm a 9.7 at the beginning of this. And I think it's that same thing where Rising Storm is a very different book. And obviously its impact of what I think about daily, I think is more based on the events. I think about stuff that happened in Rising Storm slightly more than Light of the Jedi. But it is hard to recreate that feeling of this is all brand new. Oh my God, it's working. Oh my God, it's still working. Wait, I love all of this. That realization is a very special moment in my Star Wars career, I think. God, my Star Wars life. That sounds pretentious.
Star Wars career.
I mean, this is a job-ish.
I put it on a resume.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I think that's really interesting, and absolutely I like the idea that, of course, the Rising Storm is built on the foundation that is Light of the Jedi, so you can't really talk about one without talking about the other. But I will say, for what it's worth, I liked the Rising Storm more than Light of the Jedi, and I already loved Light of the Jedi. I am just a sucker for those dark middle chapters of trilogies. I don't know what it is. I like
You've always loved
it
them
emotionally, and that's kind of the point of my second question. I want to revisit the final lines of this book and then hit you with that question. So if in case y'all have not read this book yet, please, God, don't listen to this.
This should not be how you find out.
Please,
You can't
God,
say it
don't
enough.
listen.
And I
Please, God, please.
And I just said I love being hurt by these books. I just want to make sure that everyone in the audience is hurt again by this book. So
All right, give me a second, Charles. You can go.
okay.
I haven't finished.
So on the final page, we get this quote: Stellan bent down beside the petrified body, seeing the line of a noble brow in the rock, the line of ragged Jedi robes. He reached out a trembling finger and brushed what had once been Loden Greatstorm's cheek. The face collapsed in on itself, the entire husk crumbling to dust before his eyes. And for the first time since he was a child, Stellan Gios was afraid. So, wow.
Hi, I'm Mark Thompson. This has been a Star Wars audio production.
Yeah, it's a very abrupt ending. With the triumphant horns playing in the background. You're like, no.
Read the room, guys.
Why do you think these books are getting so dark? And what benefit do you think that serves to the story?
I'm going to cheat on this question because I read an interview, we talked about this off air, from Cavan Scott that he did on StarWars.com this week about the Rising Storm. It was more spoiler filled, and they asked him that. He's like, why do you put your characters through these things? Like, why is this dark? And he just said, like, you have to put your heroes through the hardest things they can go through. And I think that's part of it, is that at the end of the day, these are stories of heroes and villains, right? And I think there's something really powerful to seeing your heroes put through extreme struggle and loss and like these hard things, because if you're a kid or an adult for that matter, and you're like, my life is super hard. It's like, yeah, well, remember Bell Zettifar when he thought he got him back and then was immediately crushed. And then further on in the story, we assume we will see him rise somehow. And I think that that's part of the inspiration, that we get to witness these dark moments and these hard trials, because eventually, you know, the sun will rise. It's the Sam speech at the end of Two Towers. It's like, a new day will come, but you gotta go through this stuff first.
Yeah.
This is now a Lord of the Rings podcast again.
Apparently. Yeah. I'm a little more on the fence about this whole thing, because I don't know what they're going to do with this, like, at all. Like, I just have no idea. I mean, I can see it as character development for Bell, I suppose. You know, it's supposed to be his story.
Mm-hmm.
There really is no guarantee that it lightens up at the end and that the heroes win. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
You know, maybe it just keeps going, getting worse and worse and worse.
I mean,
we have no idea.
can we give spoilers for comics on this show? I mean, it's kind of related.
Yeah, well, you're saying it now. Let's say if you haven't read the latest High Republic comic or so,
it's issue 7.
One you should skip ahead like a minute or pause for like a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So issue 7 of the High Republic comic depicts the very last page. It might be a Force vision. It's kind of unclear if it is, but it depicts Avar Kriss like dead, and like the Drengir have got like their tendrils like through her skull,
like, through her skeleton
and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like really dark and it's kind of scary, and like, I don't know, man. It's not really shaping up well for our heroes. Maybe they're gonna kill them all off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it keeps us glued to the pages, right? Because nobody is safe, right? Nobody. It's like Game of Thrones when
Yeah,
Ned,
right.
Oh Jesus! Please watch Game of Thrones season 1 before I say this. When Ned Stark dies at the end.
You've had a decade. You've had a decade for Game of Thrones season 1.
That's right.
And once his head got lopped off, you were like, man, nobody's safe. Nobody's safe in this thing.
That is certainly how I felt at the end of this one. Is like, that was my first thought, is nobody is safe. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that, like, you know, death isn't necessarily what has to happen for drama to happen, right? But there is an amount of stakes that are added to it. Like, going to the dark side in Star Wars is also a form of death, right? Like, that is also on the table, and I think Elzar touching the dark side in this book adds that stake of, like, we talked about that last week. Like, now is this a possibility? And, like, Loden, who's like, he's in the character art. He is my Discord name. Like, this is a character. Those aren't on the same level of importance, to be clear. But, like, you know, was shown as one of the premier things of this line. And it's like, yeah, the story will go where the story goes. And as a reader, how exciting is that?
Yeah.
For people that read, usually every book we read, we know at least 2 characters that are going to live because we know that they're in future things. But now it's like, yeah, Yoda, and you got Yariel Poof. That's about it.
Well, let's explore a little bit about how the Jedi themselves in this book are dealing with that darkness. Because we have it easy. We're sitting in armchairs reading about it. They're living it.
Badly, Charles.
Yes. Not well. So Indira Stokes is talking to Bel Zettifar about what Loden would say if he was around early on in the novel when they do think that he's dead, but he's not dead, but then he will be dead. And what Indira said was, he would also remind you how a Jedi faces the death of those they love, because Jedi can love, Bel. We're not droids, nor should we ever be. We're living creatures living in the Force with everything that brings. Joy, affection, and yes, grief. Experiencing such emotions is part of life. It is light. But while we experience such emotions, we should never let them rule us. A Jedi is a master of their emotions, never a slave. You miss what you might have shared with Loden if he were there, or if he were here. That is natural. I miss him too. And so we acknowledge that hurt. We understand it, even embrace it, but eventually we let it go. Now, is that a message from Indira to Bel or from Cavan to us?
Yes. Yes is the
I
answer.
mean, really, it's. I think it's important that he addresses how to deal, specifically how to deal with something horrible before presenting us with horrible things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So quote shout outs before I want to hear what you guys think about this one. A couple chat shout outs rather. Harris says Indira Stokes, one of the High Republic's most underrated characters. And I think after this wave, 100%. And Caroline says that's her favorite quote of the book. I can't blame you. It's beautiful. What do you guys think?
Well, you have to, I feel like they have to know what those feelings are in order to let them go, right? So if they embrace those feelings, then hold on to them, much like Anakin did, and kind of how Elzar Mann did in this book, then that can be a path to the dark side. Yeah. So if you see what those emotions are and you feel what they are, but you don't actually act on them, but you know what they are when they come about, you have an easier time of dealing with those. I think you have an easier time with dealing. I'm sure everybody's different. Every Jedi is different.
Right. You know, the whole like attachment issue in Star Wars is like such a huge overarching issue that's been around forever. Holy smokes. So much legend stuff deals with this, right? And in the Legends timeline, famously, like Luke didn't ban attachment like from Jedi. Like all the Jedi are like married and stuff.
You know
in
what
Legends.
he's like when Henry VIII wanted to get divorced, so he created the Church of England, and he was like, "No, that's how it is now. I want to get divorced." And Luke's like, "I really want to marry Mara Jade." All right, that's
how it
the
is.
rule.
I know. That's what they.
Yeah, Luke is Henry VIII. That's my quote. You should pull for Twitter. That's it.
Yeah. So like, I mean, the fact that they're addressing the attachment issue again is awesome, and I feel like this is like the true way the attachment issue is supposed to be like addressed is the way the Jedi, like, they have like a healthy understanding of what attachment is, and they all freely discuss it, whereas like in the prequels, Anakin is like, you can't tell anybody about Padme, and it's like super secret, and like, you know, it's implied a bunch of times that like if the Jedi Order found out that they would kick him out, and it's just like it's just not, you know, it's not. It seems like such a hard line in modern Star Wars, right?
Yeah, I mean, for any of us that had secret girlfriends in high school, hypothetically speaking, it sucked. Didn't work out. It's not great.
She went to a different school, Eric.
Yeah, exactly. Hypothetically. But I just want to shout out Jacob in the chat. Brought up a great point. This is a great conversation about it. But in Race to Crash Point Tower, the middle grade novel that happens in the middle of this book by Daniel Jose Older, there's a similarly great quote and conversation from Vernestra Rowe, where she has an incredible discussion about attachment, especially for a middle grade book. And I find it interesting that two of the main books, Night of the Shadows actually does talk about this as well. This whole wave really talked a lot about attachment. And I wonder, and I'm sure it's intentional. I mean, it's not accidental, right? But it's kind of cool that these authors in this era are really putting such an emphasis on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're going to get more, because I think we're going to experience some more loss. And with loss comes feelings of attachment.
Yeah.
Probably so.
Yeah, I think so. Claudia Gray's never hurt me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Let's look at this next quote, which is, I'm saying is from page 54. Remember, all my numbers are a little bit off because I use the tablet. But Stellan says this: Strong passions are something we try to control within ourselves, as emotions can cloud our judgment, especially in stressful situations. They can blind us to the truth and to the leading of the Force. That said, it would be foolish to suggest that a Jedi has no desires or interests. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it would be dangerous, leading only to complacency. Yes, I have a passion for learning and teaching. It's a part of who I am. But I'm also prepared to set such things aside at a moment's notice. My passions must never be greater than my mission.
Stellan Geos.
I love Stellan.
Dab on those. Dab on the haters, Stellan.
Good catch, Eric.
Alrighty.
We are a family show.
That is not true.
Because we're a family show, I bring up this quote to lead us into a discussion about, you guessed it, sex.
Yeah. The horniest era. What's up?
So what are your thoughts on Elzar Mann's one-night stand with Samira? And what is the Jedi Order's official stance, do you think, on sex?
I mean,
and I want you to know, when I wrote this question, I almost asked, what is their position on sex? But that felt wrong. But
That's a different book.
But seriously, do they allow it? Do they allow it? Do they look the other way? Does it affect the Jedi's relationship with the Force? What do you think?
They're gonna put him in horny jail. That's what's gonna happen.
Bonk.
Horny jail. Okay.
No.
Bonk.
That's the Citadel or whatever it was.
Yeah, just horny jail.
Yeah.
No, I mean, realistically, I think that I don't think that they demonize it at this point, right? Because I think it's kind of like like Stellan says, don't let it get in the way of anything intense. Like if he was like with Samira when everything was going badly, then obviously he would be clouded, wouldn't be able to be like, do your job. It's kind of like what I assume, this is a very large stretch, but like a military type thing. Like if there's a mission and we got to do something, you got to go. But like, if not,
Sorry,
it's your time. Don't let yourself get super distracted and like overly invested to the point where you prioritize someone like Anakin to Padme over the listening teachings of the Force.
Or the entire galaxy and all of the Jedi Order, but you know,
Oh my God!
What happens
Hold
on Naboo stays on Naboo. It's like
Saber Bouquet, absolutely the nickname Elzar, quote, hottest mess in the galaxy, man. Yeah, dude is.
I think,
to answer your question, Charles, that was fine.
I think the Jedi, like in this era, tend to not look at sex like it's not like the religious community looks at sex, right?
Yeah.
It's not like
it's not puritanical.
Yes, it's not this horrible thing that like nobody can talk about or do or like be involved in at all. It's more like a pleasures of the flesh type of thing, right? It's like don't let it become a distraction, right? Because we are but crude matter, right? Like I mean that's how it is. So it's just like it's a human desire or a I guess alien desire, so
I am seeing how Corey will describe sex to his future children at this exact moment.
Yes.
That's a human desire. And
if anything, like you said, Corey, it humanizes the Jedi right now anyways. Yeah. So they're able to act on those urges, but not, like you said, Eric, not take your home play back to work, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So this
do or do not. There is no try. I mean,
I'm sure some of them tried and came up short.
Oh yeah, some of those parties.
But so probably something between now and I guess episode 1. There's got to be a changing of the guard of what sex is and what you're allowed and not allowed to do as far as the Jedi Order is concerned. So
well, because it is, correct me if I'm wrong, and sorry Charles, I don't have the notes up right now if you're going to get to this, like it is either implied or basically told that like Avar and Elzar slept together when they were like younger, when they were like teenagers, or at least had a romantic, like a heavy romantic physical
second base
involvement.
At least.
Yeah, exactly. But then she essentially was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be like the head of the Jedi. I'm gonna be like a marshal, and you need to get your shit together." And he's
not
like,
defining bases in this episode, by the way.
We're not doing that.
Figure it out on your
we're
own.
We're not going there. Yeah, I mean, there was the whole.
Like that.
We talked about this a little bit last time, but like how the moment with Avar, like where she sort of pushed away, like seemed to had like huge effect on him, right? Which is very interesting. Like, is this what they're talking about? Is this why the Jedi are like kind of anti-sex? Is it like because it screws you up and makes you have attachment? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, because it clouded him. Like remember when Orbelin came down the ship instead of Avar? Number one, he didn't know it was Orbelin, secretly one of the dopest characters in this whole book.
Love that guy.
But it bumped him out, and Elzar was off his game for a bit. And I think who knows? Like, could he have sensed some danger a little earlier if he wasn't worried about Avar not showing up? And like, so it's nowhere near the prequels like you guys are saying. But
Really
I
good
think that for what it's worth, his one night stand with Samira is like healthier for him maybe than like trying to pursue a full romance with Avar.
Yeah.
Even though I would also, if I'm gonna ship anything, I think that would be a delightful relationship.
It was. I mean, I will say that the whole like come up to her while she's working and like try to hit on her again was cringy as all hell. And like come on, man.
And it was supposed to be.
I know
I love how you
that
wrote
was the point.
She's
It
like,
was certainly the point.
That was
like,
fun. I'm at work.
Like, what's
Like,
your deal?
stop.
Like, I know. Yeah,
Grow
it was,
up.
it was great.
Grow up, child.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, we're here for the fair. You never had a fling at the fair? Like, go.
Yeah, it's like the Olympics, right?
Oh my God, dude. Olympic Village. Guys, just Google Olympic Village and learn some things. I'm not going to say it on this show, but my goodness.
All right. Well, so Elzar had that happen. He also had a moment where he like let out this huge wave of, I don't know, dark side energy. And
Yeah.
he's reflecting on all of this, and he says a comment or thinks this to himself that I find very interesting. He says the Force hadn't deserted him no matter what he had done. That had to be worth something. And it piqued my interest because while we know it is possible to lose your connection to the Force or to, you know, take the Barash vow and those sorts of things, has the Force itself ever abandoned anyone? And if not, is that a meaningful metric that the Force has not abandoned him? Does that matter?
I don't know. That's a heavy question, dude. Like, what's the nature of the
Yeah.
Force? Because like there is such conflicting sort of thinking around the Force in Star Wars, right? There's both the idea that the Force is its own independent living thing almost, and also it's something else. It's nature. Like it's something that just naturally exists, right? That the Jedi can try to listen to the ebbs and flows like a river. I mean, there's a lot of like analogy with the Force, right? So can the Force abandon somebody? That's an excellent question.
I mean, I think the Force, it seems to be the epitome of the balance of science and religion, right? Like in an ideal society, like it is a religion, there is belief involved in it, yet there is empirical evidence that it exists. Like you can move things. There is midichlorian counts, right? And I think that that's kind of like Lucas's idea of it is a beautiful melding of those worlds. And I got to say, you read that quote, Charles, this is one that kind of really emotionally got to me a bit because it's like, it's a really beautiful sentiment that no matter what you've done, the Force, the most powerful thing in the universe, still loves you. And I think that's what a lot of religions try to like make a loving deity about, like whatever, whether it be God or whether it be whatever you believe. Like that's the idea that no matter what you do, the most powerful thing in existence still is there with you and still will believe in you. And I think this was a really great moment for Elzar to realize that nope. I did a bad thing. I touched the dark side, but like a good parent or like a good friend, like the Force, yep, it's okay. We're still here.
Yeah.
We gotta heal. And Stellan does the same thing later in the book when he admits that. Stellan's like, cool, I won't abandon you either. And I think that Elzar is so afraid of abandonment throughout the book. And between the Force and his best friend in the universe, he gets reinforced that, no, you're not alone. And what a powerful, beautiful statement for Cavan to write, especially in 2021, where I think a lot of us in our generation kind of have that bit of anxiety of being abandoned or not being good enough for stuff. I think that's very intentional.
And I think this was more geared towards like the light side of the Force, right? So the light side of the Force hadn't deserted him, but the
dark side will just cast you out.
The dark side was still there. So
It'll cash you outside.
it's always there. So whether you like the light side or the dark side, it's always going to be there. Whether you want to embrace the light side or you want to, be a bad boy.
Yeah. Ooh. That's we know what you want, Wes. Endar in the chat brings up the exile from KOTOR 2. Says she shut herself off from the Force during the Malachor battle to prevent herself from dying, which created Darth Nihilus. And I think that's a great point that we have, and we guys, I don't know if we said this, we have seen people shut themselves off intentionally.
Or,
Like
or
Luke and-
unintentionally, right? Or unintentionally.
right.
They have
You
dramatic
can-
things happen.
And we've seen people cut or break someone else's connection to the Force.
That also
Right.
happens
We
in
saw
KOTOR.
that. We
Yeah.
saw that in Claudia Gray's book Into
Yeah.
the Dark. So
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely do think it is the person or an external force. The force itself is always open to whoever's listening. And I think that if you are someone like the Exile or like Dez or like Luke between episode 7 and 8,
Yeah.
like you can stop listening and you can do that. But the second you try to open yourself up again, it does feel like the force is always there, which is actually a very reassuring thought. It's like it seems like a very Gandalf speech of like, oh, it's an encourage. Like when you're talking about the great, Lord of the Rings podcast yet again.
It is probably unconnected, but OK Engar does bring up an interesting point about Darth Nihilus. Like it's the first mention of the Nihil and of the word Nihil being used in Star Wars, right? So that's kind of interesting. There was a lot of debate about that early on. Oh no, Charles's internet just went out, didn't it? No, he's back.
We're back.
Oh, he's
I have
back.
no idea what just happened.
Holy smokes! Oh man, Charles told us before the show that for some reason his breaker keeps getting flipped in his new apartment, and I thought for sure that just happened. We lost him.
Someone just flipped the lights.
The Force will never abandon you. I might for 3 seconds and come right back. But
Oh man.
Well, speaking of the Force, how about Belle's near-death experience from Chapter 13? I want to point this out, that each chapter has a location listed at the beginning, whether it's Starlight Beacon, whatever it is. Chapter 13 in particular, the location is labeled as Beyond, just Beyond. And
That's so cool.
Within that chapter, Belle is like literally, I don't know, interacting with the Force and thinks he's going to die, but then realizes there's more for him to do. And then he ends up living through the experience. And
for
what he says
10,000 lifetimes, I battled the Balrog.
Yes, and then
the
he returns
tallest mountain to the highest peak.
Yes. Yeah, just before he was hit, or just after he was hit with that harpoon gun in the gut, he said, "Fly, you fools," to Indira and the rest of the Jedi and their vectors.
Yeah, Belle, you know what Bacta is made of? Fire and water. All right.
Well, within this chapter, Belle says this about his experience. He'd seen the flames, seen the Force, and it had left him colder than ever before. And there is no real answer to this question, but like, was this a fever dream or was this a real experience? And what it was Belle meant to take from it?
Good. First of all, I do want to point out that like, I'm pretty sure there's like no injury in which you can't be healed from in Star Wars at this point.
Yeah. We can explain exactly what happened.
So interestingly enough, they did drop some new medical knowledge in here. I can't remember the exact word of it, but like I remember seeing like in the scene, of course, I'm sure Charles is this too. Whenever somebody gets like hurt and they describe the injury or they describe the medicine that happens in Star Wars, you kind of roll your eyes a little bit if you have any real knowledge. And there's something about like synth gut or something like that. Like they implied that they like repaired his bowels with Bacta somehow, and it's just like, bro, you don't recover from that without like major surgery and like, real life.
No. The space harpoon shot into his thing, and then it pierced the glass, but also made a vacuum seal with the spears. We kept it inside himself.
Crazy.
Whenever you
Epic
said
stuff.
that for some reason, Corey, when you're like, is there anything you can't come back from? My mind immediately flashed to Dooku getting his head cut off. And then it went to the movie Mars Attacks where the girl's head gets put on the Chihuahua's body. And then I pictured Dooku like that.
Who knows?
I was thinking
running around.
I was thinking of Futurama with all the heads in jars and whatever. It's fantastic.
They should have put Dooku in there. But yeah, I think that to answer your point about this chapter, though, I think this was, it's a Force vision, right? I think that Force vision, somewhat like medicine in Star Wars, is like, it means what it has to mean.
Yeah.
And I think that it is the idea where he felt himself losing his connection to the Force because the trauma of the event was kind of compounding on some other trauma that he had, and that was creating a blockage. And I think was kind of like the metaphorical way of us viewing that blockage building, because I think it's been shut up. Medicine.
A colon blockage. Would you
Colon
say?
blockage, gut. I get it.
Corey and I are the same when it comes to some of the stuff. I started laughing a little bit, and then I saw him smirk, and
It's
then I kept
rough.
laughing. I don't,
Beside that, I use
yeah.
different words. But like watching Bell essentially like wall himself up in a very hard way was like kind of hard to watch, because we've read stuff before about Jedi feeling the Force, and then the second they don't, they realize they're cold, or like they've been like, oh, my whole life I felt connected, and then now I'm cut off. It's like it's a really weird alien feeling, and having a whole chapter. I really appreciated Cavan walking us through that process of essentially being disconnected from a life web that you've known your entire life.
Yeah.
And I loved watching him try to like fight his way back throughout the rest of the book.
Yeah, he was probably in the most pain he's ever been in his entire life. And a harpoon in your gut, and you just hold it there and then try to fly your vector with the Force.
Yeah,
I mean,
as
come on.
Indira is like holding the glass so you don't suffocate.
And then and then putting in the shrapnel to cover the hole with
God.
her. I mean, that whole scene was amazing.
It was. That was
Just
cool.
the imagery
visceral.
that Cavan had written there.
Yeah. Do you think they use colon crystals to fix him? Anyway, so yeah, I thought that was a really great sort of like it sort of revealed that like Bell hadn't totally lost his connection to the Force. If anything, it was stronger, right? Because he like later on in the book that he did the same thing with he assembled. Was that in that here? That was this
Yeah,
book,
it was
wasn't it?
later on the, where
right,
he was in the ship and he was like
That's right.
holding everything together.
Yeah, he assembled it because he'd seen Avar Kriss do it. So I mean, it was or not Avar. It wasn't Avar. It was
Indira.
Indira.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right.
Yeah.
God, yeah, there was. Bell, I think, is really interesting to that point, Corey. I didn't even track that, but now you say that, we do see him learn. He's a great student. He learns and employs things constantly, even throughout just this first wave. He is, God, he'd be so fun to teach. No wonder everyone likes him. Like, oh yeah, no, I tell him a thing, he remembers, and then he employs it.
Yeah.
It's like an ideal resident, I assume, because I assume you have to tell them things like 18,000 times before they stick.
You know, you just slap
Pretty
them
much.
upside the head one good time, then they never forget.
If Corey was a Jedi Master, who would he be? Love it.
So let's move on to this next prompt, which is actually from our buddy Timothy, and he posted this prompt in Discord and wanted me to ask it.
Ooh.
So this is a shout out to all of you who are in the Discord. If you ever want to make sure that we talk about something in these roundtables, you can put questions in our book specific channel in Discord, and we'll make sure we hit that point. So Timothy wanted us to talk about how they removed the hero of Hetzel herself, Avar Kriss, from this novel so that she could be a part of the story in the High Republic comics, as well as how that kind of put her at odds with the government and the rest of the Jedi's efforts, which were all focused on the Republic fair. So what did you think about that choice of totally removing the more or less headline Jedi from the first book of this series?
I loved it. I mean, like,
Bold.
I liked it a lot. I mean, I like that. It really makes you ask a lot of questions about the Jedi Order. Like, what is the leadership structure like? Because in the prequels, it's like the Council is like all powerful, all in charge, all arrogant, right? Whereas, like, you know, here it looks like there's a lot of authority between lots of different people. Like in the comic, Avar like is begging for Jedi to be sent like out to deal with the Drengar and stuff, and like the other Jedi have got their own crap to deal with the fair and stuff, so they're all kind of like at odds. There's weird like politics almost involved. It's good. I like it a lot.
Yeah. When I realized that she wasn't really going to be in this one, I had the Jason Bateman moment from Dodgeball. I was like, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. Like, I was like, because she's in the middle of the cover of the first book. Like, this is the initiative. She is the star. And I think it's smart to have Cavan write this and have him also be writing the story in which she is the star. Well, second star to Keeve, I suppose.
Right.
Third star to Keeve and Skier in the comic. But I agree, Corey. I think it worked really well because it allowed that story to also have weight. Because in the comic, you have to tell your readers that is also important. And you know how important it is? The hero of Hetzel herself is in this story. So I think this is a little more meta publishing, right? I think that was intelligent. But as Stephanie just said in the chat, they really had to give other characters time to shine to round out this phase. And I don't think we would have gotten nearly as much impact for like Elzar, Stellan, Bell, or Boleyn if we had Avar in this book as well. So I think it kind of also set the stage for what to expect going forward. Like, who knows who's going to come in which book? So kind of like love your favorites while they're there.
Yeah. That's a really good marketing point about the comics. They have the hero of Hetzal. Like, oh, that one is going to be the main in this comic. I got to pick that up.
Exactly.
So,
she's on the cover right by Keeve, and it's like, oh yeah, that.
Yeah, but detailing other characters, it just makes it a larger Jedi universe that you need to know, because we're only learning about
the
these
LJU.
characters.
Yeah.
Like, most of us are going to learn about these characters through the novels, and then we're going to get more information through the comics, and that's going to be a smaller group. But we're going to get all our information from these books. So the only way that they're going to be able to highlight that is to give characters their due. And so, like, I mean, because they did that with Avar Kriss, I'm thinking the Fallen Star, and they might do that with that book and have to highlight somebody else, like someone we've never even heard of, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Why not?
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, just make it more and more detailed. That way, this whole foundation that they're building, they can, steeple it up.
Yeah.
Ooh, man, that's
It's like no one is the main character.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Cool.
the galaxy is the main character. Like I saw a TikTok today where George R.R. Martin was being interviewed, and he talked about Lord of the Rings, and he said when the books came out, this is legit unintentional. When the Lord of the Rings books came out, the poster everyone bought in like I forgot, the 60s or 70s, whenever the actual books were out, it wasn't Aragorn, it wasn't Gandalf. The poster people bought was the map of Middle Earth, because that was the star. It was the world. And that's what he wrote with Westeros. He wanted the world to be the star. And I think that the writers of the High Republic are kind of doing that in a weird way. Like, the characters are incredible. Let's be clear, as we talked about last week and this week. But the era is the character. So that's what we're here for. And I think that is what's getting it such staying power from medium to medium.
Yeah, I like that, actually. I like that a lot. But
maybe it's also totally false. Who knows? High Republic.
Well, let's talk about another kind of surprising highlight from this book. And that was the introduction of Togrutan culture, which I did not see coming. So I have two quotes here that I'll read for you. Or just some factoids, actually. The first one is that the Togruta, we learned, they're separate from the Republic, and they call their sector of space the Karamendari, which means the center. And so wants the Togruta to join the Republic and invites them to the fair in hopes that that will accomplish that. And here's a quote for you about the Togruta. It says this: home, specifically the Togruta homeworld of Sheely, had been the biggest stumbling point when the Republic had first ventured into Togruta space nearly 150 years earlier. Members of the species were fiercely protective of their world and its surrounding moons, considering the ground beneath their bare feet sacred. Those early encounters hadn't gone well. The Togrutas had known about the Republic for centuries, just as the Republic had known about the Togrutas. There had been a mutual respect, many, such as Joramali, even leaving the Togrutas' home planet to become Jedi. But having the Republic on Sheely's doorstep was a different matter. There had been clashes, some unscrupulous pioneers misreading the Togrutas' apparent pacifism. Lines had been drawn that still remained nearly 2 centuries later. But here was the Regassa, standing on a Republic world, the official guest of the Chancellor. So overall, what did y'all think about the introduction of all of this culture? And do you think that we're going to see the Togrutas play a big factor in the ultimate story of the High Republic?
It's dope as hell. I loved it. Like, because I think when we got into this, we're like, oh, we're gonna get the Jedi, we're gonna get the Republic, but for some reason, I didn't think about the universe at large, right? But of course, there's other things going on, and it really made the galaxy feel bigger. One of the things we've talked about on Bounty Hunt recently is whether we like the galaxy feeling smaller if a lot of characters come in different storylines, right? And I think this did the exact opposite. It's like, no, we're not even just the Republic. We're the freaking beyond the galaxy. And I think that was so cool. And I think it definitely helped that the Regassa was a straight up badass. Like, her and So, we talked about last week, I'd follow these women into battle. Like, they were awesome.
She didn't wear shoes, bro.
Dude, that's how you know they mean business. I've seen Kill Bill. I get it.
Speaking of the question, I think we may have seen like the Togruta's big finale that they had, because they helped save the day in this book by bringing in their warriors to help fight off the Nihil. And I think if they had used that information for the next book or a following book, and they just had like the Republic commandos or whatever the hell they used to
the guard that like fought by Stellan. He was
they
cool.
just used those to fight off the Nihil, and they held on to the Togruta storyline where they would come in and help them at a later time. Then maybe I would think they would play a big factor. But I think that they I think they did a better job at putting it in this story and having us kind of see that spark that Togrutas will actually be part of the Republic now because they helped out.
It's a good point.
So we may see more of them. I'd be excited to see more of them. I thought the introduction of their culture was really interesting.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'd like to see more of them integrated. Integrated. That might be something. I don't know.
All right. Well,
you tried to move on. I should have let you just go forward.
Let's move on from the excitement of the Togrutas to something that's more exciting, which is Markian Rowe and the Nihil. I want to ask some big questions about them. There's just a lot to ask and a lot to talk about. And the first thing kind of revolves around the fact that a lot of the Nihil strikes in this book, not the members of the Nihil, but like their attacks, they're meant to be symbolic, right? Destroying the fair, which was marketed as the symbol of unity, the Cyclor shipyards, which were representing like the scientific capabilities of the Republic. Hetzel Prime, they thought about going and attacking again because it was the location of the Jedi's greatest victory and literally the fount from which all healing flows. So why do you think that the Nihil choose these symbolic targets?
It's the most effective form of terrorism.
Yeah, to definitely break morale of the Republic, because everybody saw what the Jedi could do and how everybody could come together as a galaxy or as a Republic and be one and see that they can live in peace after the great disaster event. But these symbolic places, would definitely break morale, because they see these pieces as, I mean, in light of a better term, like a holy land, and somewhere where you see like, hey, this is somewhere that they had a bad thing happen, and we went in and we fixed the problem, and now everybody sees that this is a light that everybody can look at and see, hey, things are good, things are okay. And if you see that part destroyed and blown up in your face, that's gonna break morale real quick.
I mean, it's every story, right? Like, how do you defeat Superman? You don't have to beat him. You just got to make him bleed and show people that he can. It's Bane against Batman. Like, I'm not just going to fight you. I'm going to break who you are. And I think that's what Markian Rowe knows, because he's sadistic. Like, he's horrific, right? Like, he is like, I'm going to destroy the psychology of what you are, because then you can't regrow, right? Even to bring in like the Drengir metaphor back to it, like, they're plants, they keep growing, you can cut them down, they regrow, so you have to go to the source. And I think that's what I think the Nihil as a whole just want to destroy. I mean, they just want to plunder and be pirates. But I think Markian is like, no. We got to go for what they are and what they mean to the galaxy, because as Palpatine showed, if you can get the galaxy to turn on the Jedi and the heroes, they do your dirty work for you.
Yeah.
Plus inhibitor chips.
And I think it's interesting that Stellan says to the Chancellor at the end of this book, the Jedi are not warriors, nor should we ever be. And her response is, but you are symbols, especially now, especially you. And so there's so much, like, as much as Star Wars has always been about the symbolism of light versus dark and that decision that we all have to wake up and make every single day, like, this book is taking it to the next level of like, symbolism is so central to everything that happens. And I really love that. It makes the story feel very elevated.
Doesn't Obi-Wan describe the Jedi as being warriors in episode 4? Like, old Obi-Wan.
Oh, when
Guinness.
he's
Warriors of
explaining
peace
who the
and-
Jedi were.
yeah.
Yeah, he describes
Yep.
them as warriors. Interesting.
Even though, famed citizen caller Mace Windu says, we are keepers of the peace, not soldiers. Even though his subtext is like, I can't wait to be a soldier. I'm going to kill so many people. I'm so excited.
Silence,
Well,
citizen.
Speaking of crazy murderers, let's talk about Markian Rowe, who is an
do it.
absolute mastermind.
Speaking of masterminds, Brian just from Pink Milk just joined the chat. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Brian. So Markian Rowe is playing chess while we're playing checkers.
Yup.
And there was something that happened in this book that really just felt so odd to me. And that was when Pan Ada reveals a recording in which Udi Dis tells him that he's been on Rowe's flagship, the Gaze Electric, and he knows that the paths actually come from an old woman who we know to be Marie Santeca. So why would Rowe let Din see that? Does that seem out of character, or was he wanting Pan to find that out and try to use that information against him?
I think it's a moment of weakness for Rowe. I think that, or rather not weakness so much as oversight. I think that we learned from the scenes with him, remembering him killing his father, that like he is very personally invested in all this, and he is playing chess. But he is also very distracted by his personal pursuit of vengeance for him, for his family, for his legacy, right? And I think that that moment he realized, like, I'm not perfect. I'm going to slip, right? So I think that I don't think he's Palpatine, right? Because Palpatine, we've talked about this on this show a lot. We love how Palpatine is years ahead of everyone. Mm-hmm. I think Markion's like weeks ahead of everyone, maybe months ahead of everyone. But he definitely can give into the rage now and then, which makes him such a fun character, but definitely a little more dangerous to himself.
It's essentially humanizing the Nihil, or the leader of the Nihil in this way, much like they Cavan tried to do with emotions with the Jedi. Mm-hmm. He is humanizing Markian Rowe here because he's going to screw up, and that's what he did. That's essentially what happened. But I mean, I see the question that you're further going to ask, Charles, so it does make sense. So I'll let you ask that before I get into my actual answer.
My further question?
Yeah, did he do it on purpose?
Yeah, I mean, do you think he did do it on purpose? Because Eric, it sounds like you're saying no, it was a true moment of weakness. Wes, it sounds like you're considering that he did do it on purpose.
I'm considering that he kind of did it on purpose.
He would tell you he did it on purpose. That's for sure. Yeah. I know that.
I don't know if he's created some other plan where this information is going to create hostility within the Nihil, within the strikes or within the storm, for that system to explode to where there's not these caste systems anymore, where there's just him and they all bow to him and that's it. It's not these three Tempest runners that are running the show. So
yeah. He has tent poles, right? Like Harris in the chat makes it nice. Like he has an end goal, but not a long-term plan. I think he has like chapters. He's like, this will happen, and then I don't know how we'll get. Then this will happen, and he kind of knows how to get to the next one, but there are gonna be some unforeseen bumps along the way, and that bump just happens to be Pineda, who he tries to kill 84 times in a row.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've really seen Markian Rowe's whole plan yet, though.
No, I agree.
I that's why I've not really had a whole lot to say about these two topics about Markian and attacking specific targets, because I don't really have an opinion yet. I don't really know what the end goal here. I mean, it's easy to say it's going to be the destruction of the Jedi, but other than psychological destruction, I don't know. There's just so many moving parts here with the leveler and this weird, creepy, kind of Sith stuff. Maybe I don't know, man. I feel like I love that big mystery. We don't really know what's going to happen.
So you bring up a good point. There's a lot that we still don't know, but we did also learn a lot of new stuff about Markian Rowe in this book. And a lot of it came from his discussion with Kufa, who was I think his actual cousin. Still kind of unclear.
Ish.
I don't know.
Yeah, second cousin, twice removed. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
they can still marry.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Texas.
So here's the quote here. Rowe had questions of his own. How many of them were left? The faithful? Kufa barked a bitter laugh. Not enough. You've seen it out there, seen them with their golden robes and flashing blades, so resplendent, so glorious, the guiding light of the galaxy. They are guiding us to destruction. The faithful know it, as we knew it on Jeddah, as we knew it on Dalna, but the recreants are in the ascendant and the tide can no longer be turned. And that last sentence sounds like an album title for like a emo screamo punk band.
Yes.
The recreants are in the ascendant and the tide can no longer be turned. But there's a lot to unpack in that one paragraph. So Jeddah is mentioned.
Yo,
obviously
the hype I felt when they said Jeddah, I'm like, yes.
Because we know Jeddah so well, obviously from Rogue One, but its history actually runs really deep. And we think of it as like, oh, it's like early Jedi stuff is involved there, but it's actually home to a bunch of religions, including the Jedi, who worship at the Temple of the Kyber. And so I did some research here, and while the disciples of the Wills and the guardians of the Wills were the predominant people who were on Jeddah at the time of Rogue One, there was also the Church of the Force, which includes members like Lor San Tekka. There was the Brotherhood of the Beatific Countenance, the Clan of the Torah Bota, and the Central Esopter, which were just some of the other major religions that were based on Jeddah. And so,
those. Correct. Duh.
While they all differ in their beliefs, they all recognize Jeddah as a place of importance with a strong connection to the Force. So any of those or none of those could be related to the faithful, quote unquote, that they keep referring to. Then there's Dalna, right? Which is the planet that Honesty Weft came from in A Test of Courage. So there's already been some High Republic connection there.
And it's mentioned a lot.
So
Dalna
deep.
keeps getting mentioned.
Honesty is a Nihil. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Woo!
What are y'all's thoughts on all of this? Like, what's going on? Who are the faithful? Like, what is their goal?
So many
they
questions.
hate the Jedi. Like, what is going on Jeddah?
Everything that surrounded Markian Rowe in this book is a huge unknown to me. Like, I don't think that. I mean, I've already peeked at your list of Easter eggs, and like, I don't think that Cavan Scott did any of this without like a total huge plan. It's so insane. It's so deep. It's like we're gonna look back at this like in 5 years when we know everything, and it's like, holy crap, that tiny little detail was enormously important. I don't know. I really like the fact that they're bringing up Jeddah. Like, I mean, there seemed to be some conflict with like the Guardians of the Wills and the Jedi and all that kind of stuff. Like even in Rogue One, it kind of was mentioned in that little book, the Guardians of the Wills or whatever, right? I don't know if you guys read that, but it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think Harris brings up a good point that I think we will find out a lot in the Markian Rowe comic, the Eye of the Storm comic next year. I think is going to go through a lot of this. I guess I guarantee we'll have flashbacks in that to like his youth.
Yeah, that would be good. Right,
very much like Kylo Ren did. And just based on this book, though, based on that quote specifically, the vibe I get is that like the faithful are maybe the like people that embraced the more chaotic dark side nature of the Force that like broke off from the Jedi. And maybe they were all one on Jeddah at some point. Or maybe they were like, we're all Force users, and the Jedi are like, well, we're gonna embrace the light. And they're like, you're idiots. You're shutting yourself off to the power of things like the Leveler and things like that. So in their mind, they're the only true people that know the entire Force, which seems very dark side.
Wow, that's incredible. I could never answer anything better than that. Way to go, Eric.
So
this is because of the transition I gave you at the beginning of the episode. I know.
Well, let's follow that train of thought. And I know ultimately the answer to all these things is going to be a shrug, and then I don't know, but I have to ask the questions.
But that sucks as a podcast.
Yeah. But like,
I don't know. You know,
whoever
Next question.
the faithful are, it seems they have some sort of ancient connection with the Leveler. Right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Leveler.
This is the only thing that I wanted to talk about since I finished this damn book.
Well, here we go. Here's what we know about the Leveler. First, it was encased in ice at a shrine on the planet Rystan where the faithful, quote unquote, used to gather.
Was it underground? Was it underground?
It was underground.
It took him a long time to get there, it seemed like.
It did.
Yeah.
It's like the mines of Moria. A
There
mine!
we go!
A mine!
but then they had to fight the Kobanica instead. That was that creature they fought down there. But then Rowe and Kufa repeat this ancient mantra with respect to the leveler. They say to each other, balance will come. And so that was really interesting and something that I think will play an important factor moving forward. And then the leveler is controlled to some degree by that darn rod that Markian Rowe has. And it seems to disrupt people's connection to the Force, right?
Yeah.
That's how Udi Dis was killed.
That's right. There you go. All right, moving on.
We may have learned the most at the end of this novel.
Yep, I sure did.
Yeah.
We may have learned the most at the end of this novel when we got Bell's experience of the leveler attack kind of described from his point of view. And it was described like this: the thing in the mist was everywhere at once, running, tearing, chasing him down, and there was nothing he could do, nowhere he could hide. It ripped through him, consuming everything he thought he was and everything he had yet to become. It was uncontrollable, a horror beyond name or understanding, and it was hungry, so very, very hungry. Bell reached out for the Force, but it had gone the way of the ground and the sky. He was alone and he was powerless. All he could do was scream and scream and scream. So, what
scary.
I think Cavan wrote this at like 1 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, being like, "Boo-doo-doo-doo, scream, scream, scream," like,
with like
Birds
some
chirping.
milk.
yeah, exactly.
So guys, what is the leveler? What do you think this thing is?
Oh, no.
What is happening?
Is it a critter or is it a droid?
I think it's a beast. I think
Yeah,
it
is it not a
ancient-
beast?
Well, because Markian Rowe put a freaking GoPro on the back of it that he's like, I want to see how this goes.
Yeah, what the
And
hell
I
was
was
up
like-
with that? It's like when you it's like those videos where someone puts a GoPro on their golden retriever and like
That's-
it takes off.
Yeah.
And,
Who put that GoPro on? Whoever that is dead.
Who soldered that on? So I do think it's an organic is like a loose term, but like it is a beast in my mind of some sort. That's like an ancient, dark side of the Force beast to like the level of like ancient darkness, right?
what did it do to Loden though? Like, because it
Yes.
doesn't just like eat him. Like a beast would have just eaten him, but it freaking Thanos'd him, right?
Right,
Like
yeah.
Did it?
it
Is
turned
it like
him
a
to
Gorgon?
ash.
Like is like Greek? Is it a Greek mythos Gorgon type thing where like
What's that
the
mean?
gaze of it, like you know what like Medusa, like when you look
Oh,
at
yeah,
it, you
yeah,
turn
yeah.
to stone. We already know that turning to stone is a thing from the Dark Side Arts, thanks to Myths and Fables by George
Correct.
Mann. So like there are dark side sorceries that can do that. So how do you learn to do a spell? You see it in nature and want to replicate it. So maybe ancient Sith saw that, and I think that's also in that Cavan Scott interview I want to plug again on StarWars.com. They asked him about that. They're like, "Should we even ask you what that is?" He's like, "No, like you'll see." And I think that is something that we're going to find out more of going forward. So at this point, I like the mysteriousness of it. I think it's some kind of organic, ancient, even I'll say pre-Sith darkness.
Like feeds on the Force or something, maybe. Like I don't know. It's
like
it
maybe it's
seems
like the
to have
dark side
taken
of the
away-
Bendu. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to have like taken away Bell's Force ability, right? I mean, is
Yeah.
that kind of implied that it's taking it away? I mean,
Yeah, or cut him
Yeah.
off, like we were saying earlier. It cuts him off completely. It has that power.
Is it forever moving forward, or
Yeah,
is
good
it
question.
while it's in your general vicinity?
Oh,
Like
that
we
was
don't
in,
know.
That was in the
You
Thrawn,
gotta read the
Thrawn
next
trilogy.
book.
It was in the Thrawn trilogy, the Ysilmir or whatever. Those
Islamiri, yeah.
yeah, Islamir. Yeah, it was spelled with a Y. Yeah.
A Y,
Anyway,
yeah.
Yeah, it's
The
like
salamanders, the Force salamanders.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Force salamanders
Salamiri.
that kind of look like plants that he wears around his neck like a scarf.
Yeah.
Or whatever,
Yeah,
something like
think
that.
Yeah, I do think this is their way of bringing in Sith sorcery to the canon more, because we got a lot of that in the Bane trilogy.
That's interesting. It could be
Bomb.
sorcery. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not alive at all. Maybe it's
A mist creature that he's like
Yeah, I
putting
don't
the
know.
leveler together, because also he says that's not its name. He's like, Markian Rowe, that's not his name. The leveler, that's not its name. But like the ancient
name is Michael.
device is a way of doing a spell. So
Yeah.
very,
You guys,
very
is
exciting
there
going
any
forward.
chance Loden Greatstorm is not dead?
No.
I think so. Yeah,
I don't think so.
I think
Okay.
I think he might be alive. I mean, I don't know.
If he
Something
comes back again,
something weird. Something
Talked
weird
about
happened with him. I don't know.
Talked about it
No.
on last Roundtable. He's the T-1000, and his body parts will
No.
come together
Yes.
and form up, and then come right back.
As I would argue, maybe the biggest Loden fan on this show. He's my favorite High Republic character. I still think no. Only because I think the story moment of that happening is so impactful. And I think that it defines this era going forward.
Yeah.
That if they didn't, I think it'd be a weaker storytelling thing. And again, if they do it well, who's to say?
It could be a trick.
I think it could be. But I think that it's interesting. We already had him captured in once.
Yeah.
And I think doing that again would maybe, I don't know. I think he's gone because selfishly, I love what it does to Bell. Yeah. I love what it does to Stellan. And it basically, this is like in the prequel trilogy or the original trilogy, if they were like, hey, guess what? We killed Yoda. You know that guy who thought was really powerful and wise? Yeah, he's dead now. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Like, that would have been so... Dumb? That's huge. Yes, also dumb. But you know what I mean? Like, let's take the powerful, wise person and say even they can be destroyed. And then... go forward in Claudia Gray's book.
Right. This is gonna form the how Elzar and how Bell are going to use their force powers going forward, right? Or if they're able or if Bell's ever going to be able to use it again, we don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Are we not going to get a conversation with Elzar that he's like, I tapped into the dark side once. You saw what I could do. It destroyed Loden. If I just use it one more time, I could save everyone. Like, come on, give it to me. That has gotta be where we're going.
Well, so I normally don't do this, and I actually asked y'all's opinion before I brought this onto the show, because this is
which he also never does, ladies and gentlemen. He just says whatever he wants without a care in the world.
This is my show now. Corey, can you just get that image ready that I dropped in Slack?
I got it.
There's been a lot of talk about the Nameless from Cavan Scott's Dooku Jedi Lost out there, but also something that was mentioned in Claudia Gray's Master and Apprentice. And in Dooku Jedi Lost, what we learn is that stories of the Nameless, and this is capital N, Nameless, were often discussed by young Jedi after their classes were over. And Dooku himself described these stories as phantasmagoria. So he wasn't into these stories. He thought it was kind of nonsense. But then one of the prophecies in Master and Apprentice, you guys remember how much time we spent on those, states, only through sacrifice of many Jedi will the order cleanse the sin done to the Nameless. The danger of the past does not pass, but sleeps in an egg. When the egg cracks, it will threaten the galaxy entire. When the Force itself sickens, past and future must split and combine. Now, it does go on to talk about the Chosen One. So is this talking about Anakin? Is this talking about things that are happening in the High Republic? Could it be both? I don't know. But that said, there is actual concept art for the Nameless done by none other than Ian McKeag. And it was actually featured in the original High Republic announcement trailer. If you go back and watch, and here's the image.
Oh
so
my
this
God!
Horrifying
so
creature.
looking.
I mean, I don't even know how to describe this for the listeners. I mean, this is like
looks like something you would see it looks like a Bigfoot picture. The way it's like blurry and
yeah,
it's like a skeleton meets a witch, all in white with like long crooked claws.
And it's blurry because the end of that announcement trailer, I'd encourage everyone to go back and watch that. There are these images like this that like fly towards the camera in like a half second. And it seems to be a lot of the villains that we have seen come into the story and some stuff that we have not seen yet. And so I can't help but question, is the Leveler a member of the Nameless? Is that a picture of the Leveler?
Dude, I got,
there's
like,
so much
goosebumps.
to
This is
unpack.
creepy. It's
man.
so creepy and scary, man. It really is.
But what a great tie-in that would be.
Yeah,
that would be
Yeah.
incredible. Across
I mean, if only we had
years ago.
If only we had the person that wrote those prophecies being a key member of the High Republic team. Oh, wait!
I guess we got to call her.
Claudia, hey. Is it the Nameless?
Yeah.
That's wild, dude.
Tell us.
I mean,
it certainly could be. And what's that? I love that bit of the prophecy which says the danger of the past is not past. It says like,
but it sleeps in an egg.
Yeah, it sleeps in an egg.
And he was sleeping like encased in ice. I mean,
The sin,
it's-
the sin
That's the danger
done,
of the past.
the sin done to the Nameless. What the hell does that mean?
The
I love
faithless,
it.
because they like the Jedi maybe sinned against them, and that's what they're feeling. Like,
And the Force itself sickens, and like if that's not what that paragraph with Bell is talking about,
yeah, man, this is
Good stuff.
I mean, the answer is shrug. I don't know, but
Maybe.
yeah.
if it does, y'all, this is recorded for the internet. It's here all the time. This is a great call. If it does,
Yeah.
that is, oh, that's cool and horrifying and absolutely horrifying, which would fit.
Yeah, pretty much. So my final overarching question is this. It
man.
seems that the Jedi may be stripped of two of their defining features in the near future: their connection to the Force and their lightsabers. Because remember that Racanium device that cuts off their lightsabers is still floating
Right.
out there, and the Nihil may have it. So what's left at that point? Does anything still define them as Jedi? Like, do they have any other strengths that they can rely on if their connection to the Force and their lightsabers are taken away from them?
They rely on each other. I think is it's one of the two phrases we've learned through this so far. We are all the Republic and for light and life, right? And if we are all the Republic, the Jedi are going to rely on each other. They'll rely on the Togrutas. They'll rely on the Chancellor. They'll rely on everyone. Because I think at the end of the day, what we're going to learn, and what we've learned since we were kids, is the Jedi is not measured by lifting rocks. It's not measured by the lightsaber. It's measured by your willingness to be a hero and help others. And I think that they are going to be stripped, like you're saying, Charles, of literally everything that has defined these heroes for 40 years on screen, in books, everywhere. And they're just going to say what Loden did, which is point me in the direction of trouble. And they're going to go and do what they can to save the galaxy. And I think that's, what better lesson could we hope for from the heroes of Star Wars?
So we can take a step down from that and say,
Also,
well, if the Jedi lose their Force ability, they can't fly their vectors, so they'll
Yep,
have to
practically.
they'll need help from the galaxy or the Galactic Republic to provide them ships, but they're still great pilots. I mean, they're probably still skilled in hand-to-hand combat. They can fight
Basics.
off. Yeah, I mean, they're probably, better off with more than the Nihil are if you are, if you're face to face with two different teams or two different opposing sides. That, yeah, they're probably better off fighting them than the Nihil are. But yeah, I mean, that puts them over the top is their Force abilities, and that Force ability helps them work together. Especially, we saw that in Light of the Jedi. So if that's gone, then they can't feel each other. They can't feel each other's, like, one person being in control with somebody else not being. That's just, yeah, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Can I leave y'all with one more quote that I think does somewhat help to answer this question
Please do.
a little bit?
Please do.
I'm going to say it's from page 394, but it's not actually.
That's not
it's
true.
This quote here. Loden Greatstorm stood alongside the young Jedi, his lightsaber back in his hands, the lightsaber that by rights belonged to Rowe. How could the Twi'lek be alive after everything they'd done to him? Why wouldn't he break? That is why you should fear them, his father whispered in his ear. They are indomitable. They are unstoppable. And so that was Rowe, of course, thinking about Loden Greatstorm and hearing his father's voice telling him that he should be afraid of the Jedi. I think it's that spirit, right? It's that spirit that they're not going to give up, that they're going to keep fighting because it is the light, right? To get back to Master and Apprentice. And so that spirit, I think, is going to go a long way towards fighting back against the Nihil.
What a nice last thought for a very dark book.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful sentiment to kind of take into the darkness with the Jedi. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
So let's run through some Easter eggs. Yeah,
Let's
there's
go.
Plenty of them. I'm going to speak as fast as I've ever spoken in my life. Remember, the page numbers are approximate. And also, I just want y'all to know these are not even all the Easter eggs that I found. I had to file down the list to this.
Kevin's
So
a
here we go.
madman.
On 10, Elzar on Avar rebuffing his advances. He says, it had been months since he saw her again. And when he did, the atmosphere was as frosty as a dawn on Vandor. So that's a nice callback to Solo, Star Wars story. Vandor was the location of the attempted coaxium train heist.
I feel like Cavan puts references to Solo in every one of his books.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yes, he loves it just like us.
It's
He's
great.
one of us. Same page. Elzar Man is drinking Katahdin Rosé. I don't know how to pronounce this, but this wine is from the planet Katata, which in Legends was the site of a battle between Imperials and a rebel force led by Princess Leia in Zero BBY, as first mentioned in Star Wars Episode 4's radio drama in 1981.
Wow.
Awesome.
Holy
Did he know
crap.
that? I don't know. But it's in
Guaranteed.
there. The next page, the statues of the lost in the Jedi archives are mentioned, and we know that was a big part about Dooku Jedi Lost, obviously, and Cavan has a fascination with the lost, so that was great to see. Elzar throws himself into the sea on Ashla, which is a moon of Tython, to commune with the Force, and he gets answers from a Force vision. But Ashla itself was the word used for the light side of the Force in some of the earliest drafts for Star Wars. And in Legends, it was also used by Jedi during the Old Republic. And in canon, it's actually been established as the Lasat word for the light side. So that's cool. Yeah. Page 15, we see Dis had killed Scarspike after a botched attack on Sereno's funeral moon. And of course, Cavan had to reference Sereno, which is the homeworld of Count Dooku, but he took it one step further here by mentioning the funeral moon, which is formally named Mantero, and it was created for Dooku Jedi Lost as the burial site of Dooku's ancestors. How sweet is that?
Yeah.
I want to love anything as much as Cavan Scott loves Count Dooku.
Right?
It's amazing.
Now, it's mentioned that Markian Rowe got Udi Dis to stop using Redug, which was a drug of some sort. And while there's plenty of different new drugs in the High Republic, this particular one is actually from Legends in the Galactic Gazetteer, a supplement to the Star Wars role-playing game published online only in 2004.
Holy smokes. How the hell do you find this stuff, Charles?
Don't worry about it. So Cyclorians played a role in this novel, right? In the Cyclor shipyards, and they kind of were the master shipbuilders. And I found myself wondering, like, what do they look like? Because they're described as these insectoid weird things. Well, luckily for us, I found out that a swarm of Cyclorians actually fought with the Resistance in The Rise of Skywalker, and they're pictured in the Art of Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker book. So if you have that handy, go look them up.
That's awesome.
Yes. On 23, Indira Stokes says yes. So there's that is the one there
fellas,
on the right.
Yeah. I pulled it up
Adorable.
on
They
Google
have
Images.
names too. That like two that you see on screen have names technically, but can't remember
Naturally.
everywhere.
Why are the Misfits t-shirts and
Just don't worry about
that?
Don't worry about it.
So, page 23, Indira Stokes says, besides, no one has ever really gone, which is a nice callback to The Last Jedi, of course. Same page, pickled kushnip is mentioned, which is a food you can actually see if you want in the Force Awakens visual dictionary because it was served at Maz Kanata's castle by Cookie the chef.
Wow.
Sweet.
26, Ty flies an unnamed YT-750 freighter, which is presumably a precursor to the Millennium Falcon, which is a YT-1300.
Nice. So many
Remember
YTs
that for
in
trivia
Star
night.
Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Ty also uses Verazine stones to help her decide whether or not to take a job. So it's kind of similar to chance cubes. Page 30, Slargas are mentioned, which are creatures that are described as a hideous mix, part blurg and part bantha. So some of our favorite Star Wars creatures. Creating
How could anything get worse than a blur?
I hate blurred
Right?
so
Make
much.
it,
It's
make
so
it
awful.
fuzzy.
Page 34, monkey lizards and scree rats are mentioned. So monkey lizards, of course, like Salacious B. Crumb, we know all about them, but we also know scree rats, which were vermin that lived in Lady Proxima's white worm den on Corellia that they captured and cooked into the gang's breakfast sludge, as first mentioned in Most Wanted by Ray Carson.
Awesome.
Let's see. We got a quote here. We felt a disturbance in the Force, Indira cut in. And you can't be more specific than that? The Aqualish asked through his vocoder before correcting himself. No, of course you can't. The Force is hardly empirical because that would be, useful. So shots fired at the Force.
The Force itself.
If anybody had listened to the audiobook, the vocoder that they used, for the Aqualish. Like it talks over some mumbling that the Aqualish's language would be. Was great. It was amazing.
Nice.
That whole audiobook part.
Great job by the editors there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. On 36, Gluvins are mentioned, and that's a species exclusively depicted in the Star Wars Adventures comics up until now. And it's the same species that Jackson the Rabbit was referring to when he said, the bigger they are, the more fun it is to kick them in the blowhole.
Oh my God.
Of course it'd be a reference.
It's Jackson.
Reference to Jackson.
Yes. And on the same page, Flugrians are mentioned, and that's the species of Elon Mack, who was one of the pod racers in the Phantom Menace. And I think it's like one of the only times we've seen that species recently.
You gotta get your pod racer facts in whenever you can.
Yeah. Now, and Acklay is also mentioned on page 42, which of course we know from the Geonosis Arena. I feel like it's mentioned all the time.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
More interestingly, on that same page, a Rogwart is mentioned, which is a species native to Mustafar. And fun fact here, General Grievous actually kept one as a pet, though it was ultimately killed by Kit Fisto in season 1, episode 10 of the Clone Wars. So go back and watch that episode if you want to know what
He
a
kills
Rogwart
his
is.
pet?
Yeah.
That's so mean.
I
He
assume
tries
it
to
was
eat
named
him.
Fluffy.
Yeah, all right. That's true.
It was instigated. On page 46, a Maligator purse is mentioned, and a Maligator is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's a blue-scaled alligator-like reptile created for Domain of Evil, which was an adventure supplement to the Star Wars role-playing game from 1991.
Telling
Great.
you, those role-playing games added so
I
much
feel like
stuff.
you have the role-playing
Every-
game from 1991, Charles.
Maybe. I'll never tell. On page 46, we get this quote. The newcomer was female, wearing a pristine flight suit, a small spherical droid hovering at her elbow. The unit served only one purpose, to deliver an anti-bac solution into the Kuranu's palm whenever required. The species had a pathological fear of germs. And I wish I had one of those things throughout this pandemic, man. Like, where can I get that droid?
Droid that administers hand sanitizer. That's all it does.
Brilliant.
Its only purpose. Page 50, Hroth beasts are mentioned as previously described in Aftermath Life Debt. And I feel
Nice.
like it's really mean to start a word with an H and then like another consonant because it feels
Hroth.
like cool whip.
Hroth.
Hroth beasts.
And I believe, and there's a picture of that in Race to Crash Point Tower, and one of the artists, on one of the pictures, you get to see what it looks like.
Nice.
It's terrifying.
On 66, Hu Yang is mentioned, the wonderful droid professor who teaches generations of Jedi how to construct their lightsabers. So that was great.
Oh.
On 84, Chancellor So's desk is noted to be made of Rosher wood, the famous wood from Kashyyyk.
That's like kind of not cool, but whatever.
It's
like
how
having-
many trees were destroyed to
It's
make
like
this desk.
it's like having an ivory desk. It's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have an ivory
Maybe
desk.
not, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
Many elephants died to bring us this desk.
This desk.
On 85, Terra Sanube makes an appearance, and we learn that he's serving as the marshal of the Jedi outpost on Dara, and he's the one who sends none other than the Blade of Bardata to assist
Wow.
on Valo.
I
That's
forgot that
another
that
cool
happened.
audiobook moment
he
where you
is
get to
so
hear
freaking
the young
old.
version. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's awesome.
On
love
page
him.
90, Bell remembers some teaching from his youth, and he's recalling this quote, and it says, "Transform you, the Force will, from this crude matter into light." And Bell mentioned that those words came from just a visiting alien to the Elfrona outpost, but the speech pattern, the word choice, and the lesson itself obviously heavily imply that it was Yoda. So that Elfrona outpost is pretty important. Now we know. I mean, obviously Bell and Loden were there, but we know that Kylo Ren was there. We know that Lor Santekka was there at one point. Luke Skywalker was there at one point, and now Yoda was there at one point. So that's pretty incredible.
Love that.
On 96, Elzar Man notes that the Valo sky is the same blue as an Ankari's sapphire. And the Ankari's sapphire is a gem out of legends that possessed healing powers. And it first appeared in Of Possible Futures, The Tale of Zuckuss and 4LOM from Tales of the Bounty Hunters in 1996.
Sick.
Wow.
Same page, Elzar mentions he served as a Jedi Knight on Naboo at the Gallo Temple, and that specific temple is newly created for this book, but maybe it will show up in future prequel content. Who knows?
That'd be great.
But what's cool about it is that it's very likely named after Boss Gallo from Legends, who was a Gungan leader from 3000 BBY, who was responsible for uniting the Gungan tribes as featured in the 2001 video game Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds.
No, not that
The
guy.
Gallo Temple.
Galactic Battlegrounds was fantastic. It was like Star Wars: Age of Empires. I still have it. It's so good.
Sick.
I've never played it. I'm gonna have to though. And what's cool is that character though of Boss Gallo was actually brought to canon in Fantasy Flight's Nexus of Power source book for the Forces of Destiny role-playing game. So Gallo himself, Gallo himself is already canon, so it could be about him.
He made it. Good.
Page 121, Hoverball and Shockball are both mentioned, which are Legends sports. This is Hoverball's first canon appearance, but Shockball's first since Resistance Reborn. On 122, Senator Toon's henchman is an Ors Rolano, which is a species that was created for the Rise of Skywalker, but this is his first appearance outside of that film. On 128,
do you remember who that is, or the Ors Lozano?
Who it is in the Rise of Skywalker? I do not know who it is. Yeah,
Is it the guy that goes, "Win the war"? It's not like
No, that's an Ovarian.
Oh, okay.
Ovarian.
Hervasian?
I think you just wanted to do that.
It's an ovary fighter. How is it Battlefront? Who knows?
He throws eggs at you.
Man. Win the war. All right.
Nobody
On
understood
page
that. All right.
128. On page 128, a Dosham pit is mentioned, and the Dosham is a terrifying species on Ryloth in legends that were featured in the complete Star Wars encyclopedia. Ton of legends stuff in this book, actually.
Sweet.
On page 159, an Uneti blossom is mentioned as one of the things on display at the Valo Fair, and in that it was from the great tree on Coruscant. So yes, the same great tree that Dooku almost wrecked in Jedi Lost when he got frustrated with Yoda's teaching style. And note that Uneti trees grow on Ahch-To. And in fact, the tree that housed the Jedi library was an Uneti tree. And they're actually slightly force sensitive. And final fun fact for you, Chirrut Imwe's staff is made from wood from an Uneti tree.
That's awesome.
Of course it is.
So that's pretty cool.
That's so cool.
170, the Sith Wars are brought up as first mentioned in KOTOR 2, only referenced in canon in the High Republic and the Thrawn Ascendancy series so far. So the fact that they keep bringing this up might imply that they're going to do something with it.
He's coming.
196, Crantians are mentioned, and this is the species' first canon appearance as well. They were previously featured in Republic Commando True Colors. On 196, also a Peasel is mentioned, and that's the small orange-shelled insectoid species of Skrit, who was one of the rebels that ventured to Vader's castle alongside Lena Graff in Cavan's Tales from Vader's Castle.
Great.
How does Cavan get all this stuff, like keep all this stuff in his mind? It's just crazy.
He writes so much of
impressive,
it.
man. 211, Zetar created what's called Blair droids, which are droids designed to fly into the war cloud with their speakers pumping out a mix of white noise and wreck punk, which sounds like something Chastna Chaddock would listen to.
I can't wait for a Wreck Punk album. I need it. Come on.
214, Tip Yip is mentioned, which is a meal made from Endorian chickens, recently featured at Galaxy's Edge.
I caught that one.
Look at all those chickens. On 224, Boz Pity is mentioned as one of the planets that has a sky island on Valo. And this is a planet first mentioned in Revenge of the Sith as the location where Quinlan Voss is moving his troops. However, it has been mentioned in canon several times since, most recently is the location of one of Nath Tenzin's old missions in Alphabet Squadron. So
I have no recollection of this line whatsoever.
Me neither.
Yeah, it's out. Look it up. It's out there.
Gotta watch that movie.
Another place that was mentioned, Vrogus Voss, which is the location of the comic crossover event Vader Down.
Nice.
On 231, Ty says there's more than one way to skin a Tuca cat. So there's your obligatory Tuca cat reference.
Wow.
Literally in every canon book.
Kind of a dark one.
Yep, a little bit. 249, the lamproid species is mentioned, which is a worm-like creature created for the cantina scene in A New Hope that was so gross that George Lucas almost didn't want to include it. And it was later named a lamproid in Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina in the short story One Last Night in the Mos Eisley Cantina, The Tale of the Wolfman and the Lamproid.
Wow.
So
awesome.
Or legend species.
Is that
249.
Is it the one that she shut the arms off?
Yeah.
Was that a lamproid?
Yes.
Yeah, the one that led them back?
was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
Sounds right. On 249, the Kidanac species is mentioned, and that's the species of none other than Droopy McCool, the Chinden Kalu flute player from the Max Rebo band.
I got a gig.
262 Kilkana are mentioned, which were the mounts of the Mon Cala Knights in Chapter 5 of Gendy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars microseries. So, yeah, they were previously brought to canon for the Fantasy Flights role-playing game as well, but this is the first canon novel that they've appeared in. 266, it's officially canon now that in-universe characters say pew pew to mimic blaster fire, just like us.
Well done.
274, the phrase Bysuric's blade is used. And this phrase was also used by Skier in the High Republic comic. And Surik is the name of a female Jedi Master in KOTOR 2. And Cavan Scott actually implied on his Twitter that she was the inspiration for this new phrase. Wow. So they are not erasing all the KOTOR stuff. You know, they are really
so
cool.
I know.
A lot of this back. Yeah. 274, we see a staff made of frick. What the frick? One of the few substances that wasn't susceptible to a lightsaber's blade. So I think that that substance rather is new, but it may come up again because that's a pretty handy power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few metals in Star Wars that have that ability. Beskar is one of them.
Yep.
Exactly.
Colon crystals, as we already said.
It's disgusting.
Exactly.
Never say that
282, Elzar and Ty basically link their minds to tame the Sandballs, and they each learn something about each other when they do. And the names Sababa and Terradine were both linked to Ty specifically. And we know Sababa was Ty's Jedi Master, but did you realize that we also know the name Terradine? From, you guessed it, Dooku Jedi Lost, Cleus Terradine is identified by Dooku as the Padawan who discovered the Bogan collection, a vault of dark side artifacts hidden in the Jedi archives on Coruscant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
So Ty Yorick has some sort of connection to the Bogan collection and Terradine.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Huge.
285 Life Day is mentioned. On
Great.
315, a Crowloot is mentioned, which is Unkar Plutt species. I only put that in here so I could say ew.
One quarter
17.
portion.
On 317, Algerians are mentioned. That's a species also making its first jump from legends to canon. They are green-skinned humanoids that first appeared, get this, in the 4th issue of the 1986 Droids comic, and they've only had 2 subsequent mentions since then. One in the 10th issue of also the 1986 Ewoks comics, and 2 in Shadow of Revan, the 4th expansion to the Star Wars The Old Republic MMORPG.
Wow. Cavan
What?
did tell
Of
us back
course.
in the day that he
that one.
he read all the old comics growing up all the
Yeah.
time. Like that's how he
Yeah.
got into Star Wars. So I don't know.
That's right.
He's bringing stuff back. On 313, Indira says to Gruta Fleet, this is Indira Stokes of the Jedi Order. The Force welcomes you to Valo. Now blow those junk heaps out of the sky. And that's got to be a reference to Kylo's line from TLJ, right? Blow that piece of junk out of the sky. 315, Orbelin references the Lariat of Armistice, an unbreakable cord that dated back to the days of the Mystic Nine. And we don't know what the Mystic Nine was yet, but that sounds badass, and I can't wait till we do.
Yeah.
And Quentin Tarantino is going to write it.
Yes.
The Mystic Nine.
On 315, someone says Star's End, like OMG is kind of how they use it. And that's obviously a reference to Star's End, the prison featured in At Star's End, the first book in the Han Solo Adventures by Brian Daley.
Wow.
362, the planet Iskalon is mentioned. Want to hear a crazy legends fact about that planet? Per Wikipedia, in the 1987 Japanese video game entitled Star Wars, just Star Wars, after rescuing Obi-Wan Kenobi on Kessel, Luke Skywalker arrived on Iskalon to rescue C-3PO, and he had to swim deep underwater to fight Klados Vader, a shark-like creature who took the form of Darth Vader. But once Klados was hit by Luke's lightsaber, he transformed back into a shark and swam away. So thanks for that, Japan.
Like not like a shark alien like in Clone Wars, like a shark. Just a shark.
Just a full-on shark.
What the hell?
That's awesome.
379, Stellan is leading a group of Jedi vectors, and he calls them Red Group. So it's possibly an early reference to like Red Squadron. 393, Stellan thinks letting Elzar pretend to tap into the dark side with the Lamproid had been dangerous enough, but Stellan wondered if sending him into a potential battle had been the best decision. Still, it was done now. He had already planned a trip to Jeddah for the both of them as soon as the time was right, perhaps even gaining special dispensation to visit the Kyber mirrors beneath the Dome of Deliverance. Usually the priests of Firma only open the mirrors on Reflection Day, but Stellan would pull a few strings, not only for Elzar, but for himself too. They had a lot to learn together, especially now.
And so many terms
so
in that
much in
one
there,
paragraph.
right? But interestingly enough, George Mann's upcoming short story collection, Life Day Treasury, features a New Year festival on Jeddah, where on Reflection Day, people, including the Jedi, will travel from all over the galaxy to take their turn peering into the mysterious Kyber mirrors beneath the city in search of guidance. So we'll actually get to see what he was talking about there.
Awesome.
Fun, right?
Great.
I'm thinking of the cave, Ray's cave on Act 2.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It may be
great.
very similar. On 394, Lorna D, wondering if she made a mistake trusting Rowe over Pan, says maybe she had backed the wrong Fathier.
Yeah.
And Fathiers, of course, are from TLJ. Same page, Rowe is again haunted by a vision of his father. And we get this quote, Rowe grabbed one of the cables, pulling himself up. Weak or not, he had no time for ghosts. And all I could think of was piss off ghosts, which is one of my favorite Marvel quotes of all time.
That's so good.
Finally, Loden and Bell grab Lorna's ship in midair using the Force and hold it in place, just like Kylo and Rey did in The Rise of Skywalker.
Epic.
That's all I've got. That is the last one I had. So, wow, this has been probably the longest roundtable we've ever had in the history of.
No, it's still in 2 parts. So I think that it's.
I know, but like this part was like
singular.
2 hours.
Maybe.
So, y'all, final thoughts. Give me your last score, 1 to 10, and then we'll get on out of here. Wes, want to start us off?
I am going to stick with my original score was either, I think it was a 9.4, 9.5. Definitely, I loved the book. I loved how it ended with seemingly the villains winning, or them having the upper hand going into the last book in phase 1. So I appreciated the darkness that Cavan gave us, and I also appreciate how he took out one of the main characters, because it makes it that much more interesting, because nobody is safe, what we talked about earlier in the show. So. Solid 9.4, 9.5. I can't remember what I said first, but I don't want to change it.
All right. I like it. Corey, what do you think?
I think I said 9.2, and I'm pretty sure I'll bump mine up to a 9.5 because I sped read this book. I missed some of the details, and I guarantee you if I listen to the audiobook, like just hearing you guys talk about the audiobook, I guarantee you I would make it a 9.5. Good Lord. Cavan is quickly becoming like Timothy Zahn level, like Star Wars contributor. I mean, he just creates such incredible characters and stories, and I mean, these references are insane. I don't know that we've ever had a book that we've done a roundtable on that's got this type of Easter eggs. This is just there's usually one. There's like 1 or 2 that's from the RPG storybook newspaper from 1981. It's but no, it's like half of these Easter eggs are like that, and it's just I don't know. I don't know if he creates all these or if other people give them to him or if there's a team behind it. I have no idea. We will probably never know, but this book was really, really good, and it introduced a lot of story. It feels like, I know we're not done with phase 1 yet, but it does feel like sort of I feel like we're moving towards phase 2, right? It feels kind of like you're closing a chapter, right? I mean, it's just we're moving away from, it feels like we're getting close to something big. It feels like Empire, right? You leave on sort of a cliffhanger, right? And that's kind of how I feel we're coming out of this book. So, and I love Empire. Everyone loves Empire.
Yeah. All right. Eric, what do you think?
I think I started at a 9.7. I'm going to agree with a lot of our folks in the chat right now, Stephanie, Endar, and Aaron. I'm going to bump it up 9.8. I mean,
wow.
The only reason that I'm not giving it like a 9.9 or 10 is because of that earlier question of like Light of the Jedi Rising Storm. Like there is just that like literally 0.2 of the first time bit that is pushing that over the edge. But like, I mean, this book is incredible. Like you said, Cavan is just such a great writer. All these characters, the more I've sat with them and thought about them, the more I can't wait to meet them again. The more I can't wait to read this story again, listen to it again, or get the next thing. And that's just the mark of a great Star Wars novel. So I happily give it a 9.8. I'm so excited that the first two have been so great. And then the next one is by Claudia Gray. I mean, what in the world did we do in a past life to get this? I'm just so excited. I'm so happy. And like all of our roundtables, every time we talk about it with each other, I'm reminded just how much this book affected me. So happily give it a 9.8.
Yeah. And I think I'm right there with you. I don't remember what I gave this book the first time around. I think it was like a 9.5. I'm going to bump it up even further. I'm going to be right there with you, Eric. I'm going to say 9.8. I think I said when we started this is my favorite Star Wars book in a while now. And I stand by that. I will devour literally anything that Cavan Scott creates. And lucky for me, he's got stuff coming out soon. So, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, very soon as well. But that's it for another roundtable. Eric, take us home, good sir.
All right, my gosh. Well, another absolutely fantastic roundtable. Another shout out to Charles for these just pages and pages and pages of notes amidst one of the busiest times of your own life. You found time to do all these amazing things and lead us on this conversation.
Man,
Thank
Charles,
you.
for real.
Seriously. And also to everyone, this has been our most, I think, concurrently live viewed roundtable we've done. Thank you to all of you. We hope you had a great time in the chat. And if you're listening to this later, we hope you had a wonderful time and are continuing the conversation in our Discord. One last reminder to throw us some, you know what, I'd say lighter, but maybe heavier questions in our Discord channels for next week. It'll be all questions. We will just have a great time talking about what you want to hear. So make sure to hit us up on Twitter, Discord, email, all that stuff. We will see you Monday night. Very quick turnaround. But on that, my friends, that'll do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. If you support us on Patreon, thank you so much. Your support makes this and everything we do at Youtini possible. We super appreciate it. And a very special thank you to Cheryl Bell, OK Endar, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command for your amazing support. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Eilerson. Corey's at Doc Star Wars MD. Charles Zetzi Hankel. Wes is at Boss Wes. A special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire, and Wes, our producer and community manager. Thank you to Corey, Charles, and Wes for podcasting with me tonight. Thank you to all of you again for tuning in and listening. And as always, may the Force be with you. High Republic!